ladies and gentlemen. I'm back again with season 2, episode 7. I'm Mona Lisa Joshi, your host for the evening, and this is my talk show called Mona Lisa's Talk Show. And today I have an interesting guest with me who is not only an engineer by education but also an IT professional. And this is so interesting that we are inviting and interviewing so many people from different walks of life, and ultimately they are all authors at the end of the day. This is something interesting I love to talk about and knowing their journey. So let me quickly invite Amol Kulkarni, our author for the evening. Hello Amol, how are you?
Hi, Mona Lisa. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Welcome to my talk show.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we start conversing, tell me, how was your day? It's Sunday, you must have relaxed a lot, or you were excited about the interview.
Yeah, on Sundays and on Saturday, Sundays, I play badminton in the morning. So,
Okay,
morning,
routine you
7
have.
to 9, play badminton, and then some household chores,
Okay.
uh, preparation for interview, and all that I do at the night. So, maybe yesterday night. In the daytime, I don't get time for personal work. Like, I have all the other things. Yeah.
Interesting. So, before we start the interview, let me quickly give a small info about you so that the audience who are joining, they know a little about you. Amol Kulkarni is an engineer by education. He is currently working as an IT professional in an MNC. He has managed to pursue his hobby of writing stories while working, conceptualizing stories in his favorite pastime and converting them into books in his is his ultimate goal. So let's talk a lot about him, his personality as a writer, and his entire journey. Someone tell me that you are an engineer by education and also an IT professional, as your profile says. That how did you start your writing journey? This is something interesting I want to know.
Yeah, so uh, maybe 15 years back, I thought of writing my thoughts. Like I had I had some concepts in my mind since I was in since I started understanding or since started watching movies or reading books. I started reading books. A lot earlier when I was in my early teens. I started reading a lot of books, and I was fascinated by the fictional world in the books and movies. So that was one thing that I aspired to be. I mean, I thought that I could also write stories, and I could also think about plots and concepts. So that was the trigger. But with as you know, with education and job and family, it's difficult to write or pursue your hobby of writing or doing any extracurricular work. So, but I thought of initially I thought that I can write some short stories or short concepts. I wrote a short story about the concept was a one-liner concept. What would happen if a person loses his mobile phone? What would happen in his life? So
Okay.
I wrote a very short story. I mean, maybe 1,000 words or 2,000 words short story about that concept. But then I realized that this is a very interesting subject. Like there could be a lot of twists and a lot of interesting events in the life of a person who has lost his mobile. When now we have smartphones and other things, but this story is based in 2006 when there were no smartphones, so no social media, nothing. So
Yeah.
and uh, and if a person loses his mobile phone, he loses all his contacts, everything, and it becomes difficult to communicate or to um, uh, get in touch with anyone. So that concept intrigued me, and then I thought that instead of short story, let me write a full-fledged book novel on this, and
Yeah,
that's
because
how, yeah,
you have mentioned also that the
yeah,
idea took some 12 years and 4 years
yeah,
into making.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and finally into publishing, how much time overall it took?
Yeah, it took 4 5 years, 5 years at the most, because I am a slow writer actually. With all the other things I do, I mean, so writing is my part-time work. I can say currently
Yes,
I'm a
yes.
full-time professional. So maybe after 7 8 years, or within a decade when I retire, maybe writing would be my primary activity. But now
Full-time
it is,
writer.
yeah, full
Yeah.
time. Now it is my secondary activity, and so I'm not a quick writer. I'm a very slow writer, and also it depends on moods and other things, and conceptualization, ideations, and all those. So it took around 4 years to complete my first book and another 1 year for publishing. And so overall 5 years it took.
Okay. And which time do you prefer the most? Is it the night time or the daytime, or it's like on the go? You have the idea and you suddenly jot it down.
No, it's in the night time. It's always in the night time when everyone is asleep. I start my writing in the night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how much support do you get from your family? Like, do you get the your manuscript read by them? Do you get any editing support from your family?
Normally, I mean, getting a free time is in itself is a good support system from the family. Yeah. And that I consider as the biggest support, that I get my free time, my own time to pursue my hobby.
Okay. Okay, nice. And you have mentioned in your profile that you tied up with First Forays agency. So can you tell me more about it? What this collab is about? And you've said that your writing got a boost after this.
Yeah, so First Forays agency is founded by Lalita Ravindran. She is a literary agent, and after getting in touch with her, I mean, a lot of communications with her. I mean, a lot of my concepts got clear about publishing world and writing world. So I mean, the boost in the sense that she was very encouraging and very positive about writing and other things. And there we have a group of authors who are who are who are who are with the First Forays agency. So, and all of us encourage each other, and there is an uh, uh, there is a good encouragement by everyone in that group.
Lovely.
So yeah, that helped.
Okay. So I would like to go a little back and would like to know about your early years. So where were you born and how did you get your education and why did you choose engineering? Was it like a family pressure or was it by choice? And then did you ever think that you will become a writer or an author, published author?
Yeah, so I was born and brought up near Nagpur. There is a place called Jawar Ordnance Factory. There is an ordnance factory there, and I was brought up there. So my 18 years were spent. So schooling was done in uh, the place near Nagpur, and that's and in that period, I mean, in that era, actually, engineering and medicine, those were only two professions that
Yeah,
generally people took up.
exactly.
So I got admission in engineering and I did my engineering. So
Okay.
that's how I became an engineer. So uh, not much struggle there, but
Okay.
the struggle was in writing actually. So
Okay.
and the trigger, as I told you, I was a big movie buff, and I also was reading a lot of novels. So that was the trigger for my
Hmm.
writing aspirations, and that's how
Okay.
I started writing. And it, I mean, it went uh, uh, into a good, I mean, correct path where I should have been
Okay.
at the start.
Nice. And let me be very frank with you. This is kind of a personal question. If it comes to writing, supposedly some of like one of your children goes for writing and choose this as a profession, will you support him or her? Like, or you would say no, go for some, like this profession. It has to be like this only, stereotypical thoughts and all. Do you believe in that?
Yeah, I definitely would support if my children go in this field. I mean, as I said, it was in that era when I was young, where medicine and engineering were the only professions. But now we have all the professions. I mean, everything is opened up, and
True.
so
True.
I sometimes envy this generation who have a lot of other options other than engineering and medicine.
But I think it should should still be a second option, because I think by now you must have understood that writing and as a career and being into a published author is still a struggle. A lot of struggle is there, and of course, marketing is a big thing. So,
Yeah.
how do you plan to do the marketing of your books, and have you thought of any strategy?
So, so actually, I'm not a big planner. I mean, on a spur of moment, I do things. So,
You
so
just go
first,
with the flow.
yeah, go with the flow. But I mean, compared to my first book and the second book, and I have more knowledge about marketing now. I mean,
Yeah,
compared to that time. So with Instagram and
social
social
media.
media, we have there are good handles. And so actually, I have been flooded with requests for book reviews and other things in Instagram uh,
Yeah.
for this second book.
That's lovely. So
Yeah.
let's talk about your second book, The Diary, The Crooks, and the Albatross. I have to tell you the title is interesting. So first, tell me that how did you come up with this title, and what is the reason behind it? And then tell me what a slight bit of the story, not the
Yeah.
spoiler, of course.
Yeah, yeah. The title, title is interesting. So if you have, if you know about the rhyme of the ancient mariner,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Samuel Taylor Coleridge's
Mhm.
poem he wrote in 1798, the rhyme of the
Right.
ancient mariner. So in that poem, the albatross is a huge bird which
Yeah.
roams around in the ocean. But in that poem, he has mentioned it, or I mean, it has been the albatross is referred to as I mean, metaphorically as a burden or a source of frustration or guilt. So these are the metaphorical terms for albatross. And so, as you said, the spoiler. I mean, I have to give some insight about the book. So, so all the characters in this book are having some guilt inside them. So, so that's why I thought albatross is the correct word. In it should be there in the title.
It's important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So actually, my working title was only the Albatross, but
Okay.
then the publisher said that this may not reveal, I mean, readers may not understand
The
if
full idea.
this is a thriller or mystery, because Albatross, many people don't know about this metaphorical term. It's generally it's a bird,
Yeah.
a huge bird in the ocean, and so this metaphorical term I had to use it in my title. Then there is in the book the main protagonist, actually she dies in the first chapter itself,
Okay.
and then there is an investigation, or there is a conversation between the other characters, and to show her background and to show her life, a diary is used. So she used to write diaries, and
Okay.
which were read by the other people who are in the scene. So that's why diary is also one of the main characters in this book. And also, as I said earlier, that the characters are having some guilt in their heart throughout the book. So Shivika, the name of the main character, Shivika,
Okay.
who dies in the first chapter, is I mean, she has these close ones who come exactly after 1 year at her house to for her first death anniversary, and then there is an conversation, and it leads to investigation. I mean, there are some doubts on, there are some I mean, people are not convinced that she died of, whether it was an accident or suicide or
Right.
murder. Yeah. So I mean, involuntarily the investigation starts, and it turns out from the diary, I mean, it is revealed that people were not honest. They were not straight with Shivika. They were having some. They were deceptive,
Okay.
and I mean that means, I mean, most we can say that they were no less than crooks. So that's how the diary, the crooks and the albatross, this title was finalized.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
But I have to ask you one thing, since you have written so many books. You have mentioned the rhyme of the ancient mariner. This is something based totally like literature, and you are an engineer student. So, have you read this like no, poem before, or you have to research on it, and this idea then came through?
Yeah, no, I had to research on this. I mean, I was not knowing about this poem, and I had not read that.
Okay.
But during researching for my title, I came
Hmm.
up on this metaphorical term, and then I did a research on why this term is can be used here.
Hmm. Hmm.
And actually, initially during my promotion on Instagram, I had made some reels and
Okay.
I had described. I mean, I had made the reels on the albatross, how that term came up.
Okay.
So all those reels I have posted on my Instagram, so that people would, I mean, that, and this was before the book got published, so maybe a month before the publication date, I started releasing these reels on people, I mean, for people to understand what this
Hmm.
albatross term is.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So, anything you want to read out from your book?
Yes. So as I said, Shivika, the main character, dies in the first chapter, and I mean, to tell before reading, I would like to talk about this book in brief. Like
Sure.
the backdrop is demonetization.
Okay.
So so that death happens during demonetization, and there was a lot of chaos in India during demonetization, and
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
lot, I mean, people were dying. I mean, there were a lot of deaths reported during that period because of
Yeah.
frustration or suicide or other things, or accident also.
Yeah.
And actually, if I may say, so when you ask me the trigger for my writing, so my writing, whenever I write a book, it's based on one single liner concept.
Okay.
As the first book was, a person loses his mobile and then the events happening in his life. This is the one
Hmm.
line plot. So in my
Okay.
second book, The Diary, The Crooks and the Albatross, I had this one line concept that
Hmm.
there is a death of a character
Okay.
shrouded in mystery, and with no clue or evidence, uh, and there is and all the people around her were also, and all of them are suspects. So this was the one line concept. So based on that concept, I, I said, I mean, I thought that to have everyone as a suspect, then I should have the characters with some flaws.
Hmm.
I've written all the characters with some. All the characters have some dash of imperfections in their characterization, and so that makes each one of them a suspect because they are not truthful. They have some hidden agenda, or they have some uh, deceptive relationships with the main character,
Hmm.
and that's how it makes. I mean, the mystery becomes more intriguing if all the characters are flawed. So that
Okay.
was one of the concept, and then I was looking for a backdrop for this. And when I started writing this, around that time, demonetization was declared. So the
Okay.
chaos in the story, which was because of the death and all this, and the chaos during demonetization, it was a perfect backdrop that I
Okay.
could use demonetization as a backdrop for my story. So
Hmm.
concept was there initially, but the backdrop I inserted later of demonetization.
And how
And
much time did it take this book
it
to complete?
also it also took around 4 years.
Okay.
I mean, I was, as I said, I have to increase my speed, but that's fine.
Okay.
So with this yeah so where was I? Yeah, on the book concept. So this was the concept, and then they meet, all her close ones, they meet after 1 year, and then they one of them knows that wrote diaries. So they search for the diary and they get the diary. And in the diary, uh, everyone's, I mean, her relationship with all the characters is mentioned in detail, and her day-to-day life in the second part, and how she was, how she. I mean, games were played with her by the other characters, which was hidden till, I mean, which was not known to others, and most of them are strangers to each other. They are not close to each other. Only Shivika had a relationship with each of them as friends or mentor or something like that. And in her diary, it is also revealed that she used to dream a lot. I mean, she used to, and there are a lot of dream sequences in the diary. So I will read one of the dream sequence of her from the book, and
Yeah.
so this is actually very big dream sequence. So I will read second. I mean, concluding part of that dream, which is very relevant to the story. Yeah. So yeah, let me start. So my heart was beating outside my chest. I could feel it all over my head. I was familiar with this feeling. Strangely, I have known this uncomfortable grasp before. I looked around and everyone was standing with guns pointing at me. I broke down. I cried and tried to reason with them, but they would not listen. I could cry no more. I had cried all I could. A sudden silence rose inside me and they all began to talk. I had no idea what they were trying to say, but I could feel their anger and their accusation that was building up around me, like a frigid wall that was going to engulf me. I was about to faint from the sheer distress of that situation. They kept talking without rest. All talked and shouted at the same time. The cacophony was unnerving. I began to faint. My senses were growing dull. It was then I heard a sound that brought me back to life, and it ironically also pulled me away from it. Someone had fired their gun. Their accusations had stopped. There was complete silence. Suddenly, I realized I could not breathe. I looked down at my chest. There was a hole. I was bleeding. I began to rise, leaving my body. For a moment, I could see them all standing in a circle around my body that had fallen from the horse. I floated higher and higher until I saw light. I was sucked into it. I didn't know for how long I was away from my senses. A touch on my forehead woke me up. I looked around and found myself in the middle of a court. It was the court of the god of death. He sat on a large throne, and all his attention was on his accountant, who sat to his left. The accountant seemed to be giving God the daily briefing about the number of people who had died that day. It seemed like an eternity as the two sat going through every death. They were looking into the lives of everyone who had died that day. Finally, my turn came, and the god asked his accountant while he looked at me, "Reason for death?" "She was shot, my lord," replied the accountant. "Who killed her?" came the roaring voice of the god of death. "It looks like five people were in the middle of convincing themselves to kill her. They all fired at the same time. It's hard to say whose bullet killed her." Were they all were they all fired? I thought it was one shot. Perhaps it was one shot taken exactly at the same time. The god nodded his head, looked at me, and said, "Girl, my accountant could not identify the person who killed you. If we go by their intent, all seem guilty. Now there are two options you can choose from. One, you can stay here with the burden of not knowing who killed you. Two, you can go back and find who killed you." I told him that I wanted to go back. He nodded in agreement and stood up with a scepter in his hand. It was only when he stood up that I realized how large a man he was. The scepter had a bull shaped top with two sharp horns. The god of death touched me with the scepter on my forehead, and I began to go into the ground. Soon the ground disappeared from under my feet, and I was in a free fall, and I woke up. So this was a dream sequence, and it gives the essence of the story. Like everyone is guilty of killing her, but no one knows who killed her,
Who killed her?
and how the investigation goes on. And
And my light is ditching me today.
oh,
Anyway, okay. So, can you show the cover page? The
yeah,
book?
sure, yeah, sure. So this is the. cover page.
Yeah, that's interesting. The diary, crooks, and the albatross.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So there is an albatross in the background in red, and all the characters are there. The silhouettes of the characters.
So has this book been launched and are you still promoting it? I think creative work is for like forever. You
Yeah,
keep on
that is
promoting
forever.
it.
Yes, it's forever. Yeah, I still promote it. I mean, through various, and I mean, I think that having a talk show with you is one of the biggest promotion that I think it will have for this.
Lovely.
Yeah,
I hope that many people will pick your book and audience people have started joining some of your friends, so that's lovely. And this video is also going to be on YouTube and also on Spotify through audio podcast. So
thank
I want to ask you one more thing, that I was reading your profile and I read that you are interested, like someday you wish that some of your works may turn into a movie. So do you think you have written that manuscript or novel already, or it needs to be written yet?
uh, so I mean, these two books. I mean, I am thinking of not as a separate one for the movie. I think even these can be made into movies. The first book and even the second book.
Second one,
These
yes.
are these are a good movie material books. I mean, as a
So
thriller.
have you planned on something? How do you wish to go ahead with it? Like you send them to directors, or how do you think you will do it?
So there are some book to movies and word to screen. All those things are. I mean, nowadays there are these concepts going on.
Hmm.
So I submit my synopsis or flyers to them, and and if I'm lucky, then I would be selected, by one of the directors.
Absolutely. I'm sure it will happen, surely. You just keep having that seed in your mind. I'm sure
Yeah,
universe will definitely help you out.
yeah.
And okay, so let's do the rapid fire. This is the interesting segment.
Okay.
And I will also drop the link of your book in this interview segment, also on YouTube. And I hope people will buy it and review it. Please support the authors. And this is something that you can do from your side. And this is what authors crave for, truly. So let's begin with the rapid fire. Your favorite movie?
My favorite movie. There are many. Mostly, I'm a Hindi movie buff, and even I mean some of the Hollywood movies. But in Hindi movies, I have a lot of favorites. Like from the earlier era when I was young, uh, Sholay and Diwar were my favorite,
Okay.
and nowadays, uh, with the new movies. Some of the good movies like The Lunchbox and Kahani are my favorite. Kahani is one of my favorite. Very um,
Yeah, that's a very interesting movie.
yeah, Kahani
So
and
you
even
are kind of into thriller genre more.
yeah, killer genre mostly. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite time pass.
Favorite time pass is listening to music.
Okay, that's
And
nice.
yeah.
Favorite author, both Indian and international.
International, I have many like Agatha Christie. As I mean,
I
on
knew
the
I
side.
could come.
Frederick Forsyth is one of. I mean, I started reading novels. I mean, his novels.
Hmm.
That was my start. Frederick
Okay.
Forsyth is one. Then Robin Cook also I liked, and Robert Ludlum also.
I
Indian
mean,
authors, not many favorites. I started reading Chetan Bhagat earlier, but I read only two or three books of his.
hmm.
Then later I stopped reading his books. I read some of Ashwin's book.
Okay.
Ashwin,
Sangi.
Not Ashwin, the other guy.
Okay.
Amish is,
Anish.
yeah.
So you
And
have read this Shiva book, I guess.
yeah, Shiva, first part I have read. The first of the trilogy I have read.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. If you were a character from one of your books, who would you choose it to be?
Uh, in my second book, I would choose to be Ashwin Kumar. He's the investigator who
Okay.
applies his mind to solve the uh, mystery.
Nice. Any secret projects that you're working on? And if you would like to reveal, of course.
I usually start working on that, but as I told you earlier, my speed is very slow. So sometimes, like if you see, I mean, in the other art forms also, you take painting or sculpture making. If it is 10 or 20% done, then you can't call that as a finish. I mean, a painting at a 10% finished
Hmm.
thing. It's not a. It's we cannot say that it will whether it will be complete or not. So similar
Yeah.
to sculpture. So all art forms initially there are initiatives like there is uh, we try to do something, but we don't know if it will go in the way we want it.
Yeah.
So currently, whatever I'm writing is just 10 to 20%. So. Uh, I may not. I don't know if. I mean, I will only start revealing it if it is 70 to 80% complete.
Hmm. I understand. Okay. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Uh, I'm introvert, honest,
Okay.
and I aspire to become something.
Nice. And two things that we don't know about you apart from being a writer and IT professional.
Uh, my close friends know that I'm a great fan of R.D. Burman
Okay. So
and
you sing also, I guess.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where the listening to music part comes. And so, yeah, these are some things which only my very close friend knows and family.
That's nice. So, anything you want to say to the aspiring authors who are just starting their journey? How did what were your struggles and challenges, and
Yeah.
what should they look out for?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge is writing block. So that is also the reason that I sometimes go slow. I mean, I am forced to go slow because of writer's block. So writer's block is something that is natural to everyone, and I think sometimes it's also good. Like what we should do. Like from my experience, I know when you have a writer's block, then what are the things that you should do. So one first thing is if there are so mostly, I mean, in any story you have a main plot and there are some subplots. So my advice to the writers is if you get a writer's block, then just try to park it there. Don't think about it. Start
Hmm.
writing on the subplots. So if you have a structure of your book ready, so there comes the importance of structure also. So the aspiring author should first make their structure of the book. So they should have the idea of the story. They should define the chapters. So then it becomes easy. If you have a writer's block, you can park that chapter and move to the other chapter. You can start writing the other chapter. So this is one of the solution for writer's block. The other thing is sometimes you can also resolve your writer's block through some other activities like like exercising or listening to music or just daydreaming. So even these things can unblock your writer's block. You can get some ideas uh,
Yeah.
for that. So these are some of the things for the aspiring authors. And also one more thing is uh, so if they have also discipline is also one more thing that you should have. Uh, so if you have a discipline, if you have a disciplined, if you make rules for yourself, like you should write so and so many words every day. So that also helps. But I mean that is for telling to the aspiring author. I also may not follow sometimes, but it's also said that you should be strict with yourself so that you are disciplined. But you should also be lenient, and you should not force. Just to follow the rule, you should not write anything. I mean, there should be balance between being strict and being lenient with yourself while you write.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true, and very well said. So I'm sure many of the new writers will gain a lot of wisdom from you, as you have said that a balance should be maintained. Although I'm also a very slow writer like you, I'm a big time procrastinator
Yeah.
because I'm doing so many other things. You must be knowing that I'm a publisher as well. So otherwise, also I have my first novel. It took me 10 years to complete it. So I sometimes feel very ashamed to tell people, but then I think it's okay. We are all walking our own journey, so it's fine.
Yeah. So I've
So
heard of many authors, many renowned authors who took 10 years, 12 years. I mean, recently I read about someone, I don't remember, but I think she or he were some winners of some prize, and it took 10 or 12 years. So it's, I mean, natural. For people like us who don't have the primary job as writing,
exactly
yeah, it
true,
can take some time.
absolutely. So it was lovely having you, Amol, and knowing about your book. I hope many people will buy it, read it, and they will also review it. And if they want to connect with you, is there any mail ID? You can share it with me. I'll drop it in the link or on this page also, and also on YouTube. So if
Yeah,
anybody wants to connect with you,
yeah.
and I hope you also had a good time.
Yeah, I had a very good time. Yeah, this was a good conversation I had with you.
Absolutely. So wishing you all the very best. Many
Yeah,
congratulations once again for your book.
thank
Bye.
you.
Have a great
Thank
evening.
you. I have a good time. Thank you.
So I was talking to Amol Kulkarni, who is an IT professional but also an author. He has two books to his credit, and the latest one is The Crooks. I think I have to read it. The Diary, The Crooks, and the Albatross. Yeah. So this is the second book, and I will drop the link. Please buy, please read, support the authors because every author wants to be read. That is what my journey is all about, supporting and promoting authors so that I can make you reach to many new authors who are not read much or people are not aware of them. So I hope you will support me also in this journey and forming a community of readers and writers. Looking forward to meet many authors and for many interview sessions. Bye all, have a great time.